Hello guys, welcome back to Garage Football. Here's our preview for West Ham against Lyon in the Europa League Quarter-Finals, first leg at the London Stadium this Thursday. So to talk about Lyon, their style of play, their key players, recent form, etc. in the French league. I'm joined by James Rowe, who's a journalist based in the Netherlands and has got a very good knowledge of European football. So if you're new to Garage Football, please subscribe to us and let us know your score predictions, comments, etc. Down below. It'd be great to read those. So, James, thanks for joining, mate. It's been a while, so good to see you again. Just before we touch on, say, Lyon's key players and so on, what are your thoughts on the game, or the first leg in particular this Thursday? I mean, West Ham got off to, they lost the first leg against Sevilla, but won brilliantly at the second leg, which was at the London Stadium, which is absolutely incredible. But albeit, Lyon aren't probably as good a side as Sevilla, but they're still a good outfit.
Well, first and foremost, Bill, great to be speaking again. Thanks very much for having me on, and great to be back on the channel, and be very interesting. I must say, first and foremost, I wanted to congratulate all of West Ham players, board, and also particularly the fans for how they've embraced the Europa League this season. I think it's really, really good to see. As someone who I'm an Arsenal supporter, and up until COVID, I would always prioritise European games from Amsterdam. And returning to the Emirates to see the likes of Rennes, Napoli, Sporting Lisbon, Ostersund, there was always a disdain from fans of, if it's not Real Madrid, Bayern Munich or Barcelona, they're not interested. And it was always like, we're waiting for the knockout, when in some cases, we were just underestimated teams. And I think it's really good to see our West Ham, like you gave an example in the past with Fulham, fully embraced the tournament, the fact they're playing in Europe, to knock out a very, very strong Sevilla side who are going really, really well in La Liga. And although Lyon are struggling on the home front domestically, West Ham have got a chance against Lyon, and be very interesting to see what happens. So first and foremost, a compliment to everybody involved. It's great to see an English club fully dedicated and embracing their European season.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's spot on, mate. And, this excuse of Thursday, Sunday, I think we've proven it this season with a very small squad as well. That's a load of rubbish. It's about whether the players are dedicated, whether the manager, whether they've got belief in the squad and the players, and how deep they want to go in this competition. And we've taken it very seriously from the very first game. So and I think we deserve to be where we are. And I think beating, it's no exaggeration to say the kings of the Europa League and even the UEFA Cup in Sevilla, won it 6 times in the last 16 years, I think it is. So, if we don't get any confidence from beating them, then we'll never get any confidence. So, but as we'll touch on, Lyon is still a good side, even though they're going through a bit of a struggle. So we'll talk about Lyon now, their recent form. So we'll have a look at Ligue 1, the French league table, and obviously, I'll touch on James about their history, Lyon. I mean, obviously, they're not the force they were in, say, the early 2000s when they won 7 titles in a row. And they had the likes of Juninho with his free kicks, the playmaker, and Karim Benzema before he went to Real Madrid, was banging the goals for Lyon as well. But last season, they finished 4th. But this season, at the moment, they're in 8th. And for me, even though they haven't lost that many games, they only lost 8. And Rennes, for example, have lost 9. But for me, they seem to be the draw specialists. They've drawn 10 games this season, which has held them back, really. What are your thoughts on their form this season and recently as well?
Well, it wasn't so long ago that they had their worst league position in a quarter of a century. And they've obviously improved since then. The win against Angers last weekend against the stubborn Angers, they were a difficult team to break down, and they managed to get over the line. And I think the intensity of Peter Bosz as well is, I know him well from his time at Ajax, and he asks a lot of his players, especially in finding solutions within games to try to win the game and get the victory over the line. But I think Ligue 1 is slowly improving. I mean, I saw the game against Rennes, where Rennes were 4-0 up within an hour. And I think a lot of people were sleeping on Rennes. I saw them play Arsenal in 2018. And what they've done behind the scenes, Rennes, is very impressive. But obviously, a lot of the media, if it's not Paris Saint-Germain, they're not interested. Whereas if you only have to look at how well Marseille are doing, you only have to look at how well Nice and Rennes are also doing. There's so many stories if you have the time and the willingness to want to look. But I think what Lyon are struggling with this season is the intensity of Peter Bosz and his demands. And will be interesting to see how they finish the season, and also combining European football and domestic football.
Yeah, exactly. So here, interesting to see how they get on. And I think that's what. Before we touch on the style of play, we'll touch on that in a minute. But like, I think Sevilla, especially in the second leg, I think West Ham, I think we just overran them in every sense. Like, because I don't think in La Liga, even Real Madrid, and obviously not the force they were Barcelona or not. I don't think that Sevilla are used to playing against a high intensity side, like a Premier League style side. I think in the second leg we just overawed them, and I think then 2-0 was the least we deserved. I mean, we made Sevilla obviously a very good side, which they are, and they had their best players back available, which they weren't in the first leg, and we made them look pretty average, I've got to say, even though they're a very good side, second in La Liga. We'll see, as we mentioned, very good in the Europa League competition, and I think we're just we're too much for them in the end, and but obviously we're just to see if it'd be a similar story with Lyon. So let's talk about the style of play for Lyon. So you touched on it briefly there, but what kind of style are we expecting from a Lyon point of view? Because Sevilla, they don't score that many goals, but defensively are very solid. Whereas Lyon, I think with certain players, I think they're seem to be more of an attacking threat.
Well, the 4-2-3-1 formation, Lucas Paqueta, the Brazilian, he looks a very, very special player. To have sufficient experience at AC Milan and Flamengo, and he's a massive part of Brazil. And if you think of the pressure that's on Brazil's shoulders going into Qatar, I think he's going to be a key player. Leo Dubois as well has been capped by his country, and he's a very good player. Also, Romain Fèvre, who played for Brest, also spent a short spell at Monaco. He looks a very good player. And Maxime Cacarat, he's also a very good player. He's very young, but he's very eager on the ball to win the ball back and play the ball forward. They've got some very good players, but they are also vulnerable. I think they're vulnerable on set pieces. You saw that in the away leg against Porto, where VAR literally came to their rescue. And I don't think that their goalkeeper, he's kept a clean sheet in 9 domestic games. So I think if West Ham can put a lot of crosses in, because if you saw with the goal against they conceded against Angers, the ball travelled a long way before the Portuguese attacker got his head to it and scored the goal for Angers. So I think with West Ham there are opportunities, especially with aerial prowess and physicality up front. And if you belief is also so important in European football. I still marvel at the fact of each European football season has its own rhythm. There's always stories to be told in tournament football. In tournament football, regardless of level, there are always surprises. You touched on Fulham as well in the Europa League. If you go back into history with the Europa League finals, who's reached Europa League finals, Werder Bremen, Shakhtar Donetsk, Dnipro, many years ago.
and the Champions League, James, as well, because it's where my Lyon, obviously on the face of it, we've touched on the league form, but they might be saving their best form and playing their best in the European competition. You look at the Champions League, 2005, Liverpool won it. They were 5th in the Premier League that season, and you compared to AC Milan, were nowhere near as good, or the Chelsea team that beat in the semi-final with the Luis Garcia ghost goal. They were nowhere near as good, but they still won it. And Chelsea themselves in 2012, where they somehow beat Barcelona in the semis and then Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena on penalties, they were nowhere near that great. I think they finished 6th that league with Villas Boas, and then Roberto Di Matteo took over. So it's obviously league form can be an indicator, but it's not the be all and end all, is it?
No, and I think a lot of people, they like to kind of get carried away.
So we'll finish before we get some predictions from you, James, on the scores, etc. Let's touch on the key players that Lyon possess. So I've been looking through their squad, and as I say, got some very familiar names. Jerome Boateng, who was at Bayern Munich. You got Ndombele, who's on loan from Tottenham. And for me, I think the standout player, one player that West Ham really got to look after, mark tightly, who's a real goal threat, is Moussa Dembele. He went for. He's been a goal scorer at Fulham and Celtic and at Lyon themselves. But last season he went for. I don't know if he was injured or anything. You might be able to share some insight, James. But he only scored 1 goal in all competition. I think he was on loan at Atletico Madrid as well.
Yeah.
But this season he seems to be getting back to his best form. So I think unlike Sevilla, where they relied on clean sheets and being solid and getting the odd goal. I think they don't, but they didn't really have that, number 9, that real centre forward. Whereas Lyon on the opposite, and they rely heavily, it seems to me, on Dembele to get on the score sheet.
Well, he scored a brace last weekend as well, or yesterday against Angers. It's very much a confidence player. To go to another country, it's tough. I mean, I haven't done it as a professional footballer, but I have done it, and there are similarities. There are things that you can prepare as best as you want. There's always something you don't expect, and I think a lot of fans. What I always try to let people know, Bill, is having spoken to young players in particular. A move abroad, young players are not just learning their football skills, they're also learning life skills. When they go abroad for the first time, the club becomes your family, and you need to be looked after. You need to be feel part of a group. And I think the choice that young players make, I mean, yes, the starry-eyed dreams of hitting the top. The most important thing for young players is that they have to play. And I think Dembele, he's very much a confidence player. I touched on Lucas Paqueta. I think he'll be key. He was key for Lyon in the game against Porto. And I think as well with you say about Boateng, I remember watching him play for Bayern Munich. If you can get at him, he's no
he's vulnerable. He's vulnerable when he's 33 years of age as well.
Yeah, and if you can get at him, and Mikel Antonio having a kind of field day with that'd
be a good battle.
Yeah, but confidence is key. They've got some very good young players as well, as I mentioned, like Dubois, and also Romain Fèvre. I think he's so underrated. When you look at his career, he played for Tours. I think Koscielny, Arsenal fans will know, also played for Tours. Spent a short time at Monaco. I think he's. I think he could be a key player for Lyon. But they've got some great attacking talent. But you can get at them at the back line. You only have to look at the spaces that Angers left behind. If I was David Moyes, who knows an awful lot more than what I know, I would play the highlights of the Rennes game, because Rennes absolutely steamrolled them with pace, and pace again. So and they were 4-0 up within an hour away from home in Lyon. Wow. So it'll be very interesting to see. And Rennes have also got some great players. So belief will be really important for West Ham. Also have to enjoy it as well. They've worked so hard to get in this position. People forget as well, Bill, that it wasn't just the top two that went through. So such as in previous years, it was the group winner that went through, and then you had the playoff, which I think you need to be a mathematician to work it all out. So West Ham need to congratulate themselves on going through that phase, and they deserve to be in the position they're in, and it should be a great game.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think I think, as I said earlier, we should take great confidence from beating Sevilla, and I think we've got. We've got key players coming back. Jared Bowen, he scored against Everton. His first game back. Unfortunately missed the second against Sevilla. That's a big boost. Antonio played well against Everton. Didn't get on the score sheet, but he played well, so he'll be key. And also, you mentioned set pieces. That James, we've been fantastic at those this season. And Aaron Cresswell scored direct from a free kick, but Craig Dawson's got a few, and Zuma. Cresswell's crosses from open play as well. So I think, I think we've got every chance of beating Lyon over the two legs, but I think it's vital that we obviously take something going. Obviously, away goals are irrelevant this season, but just take something going into the second leg. Same with the Sevilla, we only lost 1-0, so hopefully we obviously get the win, but there's only one goal in it, and over 90 minutes in extra time, then it can all change, can't it? So I appreciate, James, for your thoughts. That was really, really insightful. So before you go, let's hear your score prediction for the first leg this Thursday.
My prediction is a 2-2 draw.
Oh, high scoring.
I think the rest will play a part as well. They both played on a Sunday at similar times. Both won their respective games, but I think both teams realise this is a great opportunity, as you say, to qualify for the Champions League, which is the ultimate for most teams. But as someone my team was in it for nearly a quarter of a century and just took it for granted, where participation, it even filtered down to the fans, Bill, where participation was more important than trying to win the thing. And that wasn't very nice at all. You touched on Jared Bowen. I think he was exceptionally lucky not to have been called up for England. I think he's done really, really well. And I think
unlucky, you mean?
Yeah, exceptionally unlucky. Yes.
Yeah. He was, he was injured. He was injured, wasn't he? Yeah, unfortunately.
and I hopefully Southgate's looking at him because we've got preparation for Qatar in December, and picking players on form is vitally important. So it'll be very interesting to see how things happen.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's great news that he'll be playing against Lyon. So okay, well, thanks for that, James. So my prediction, I'm going to go. I think both teams will score. I'm going to go West Ham. I think we'll win 2-1 and take a lead going into the second leg next week. So thanks, James, for your thoughts. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe to Games Football if you're new. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and let us know your pre-match thoughts in the comments below. They're great to read those. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Take care.